Dave.
And I'm Dave.
This is the Offsite
Insight Podcast.
Brought to you by the Creative Co-op, Advertising and Design.
tcco.ca. Thanks again, Gino and team. Today we are lucky to have in our inaugural episode Mr. Rob Cikoja, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Habitat for Humanity in Huronia.
Thank you. Honor being the inaugural guest.
We are so excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
So Rob, how'd you get started in Habitat for Humanity?
There's, like I said, there's two versions. There's the one where I wanted to help the community and be a good guy, and the other one was I got involved in the organization by fluke, and that's the real story. Is that at the time I was running my own construction company, and somebody, one of my colleagues had said Habitat's struggling to get their construction department down, and my company was a construction company. I was like, they don't want to go to Haiti or whatever and build up houses or disaster relief. 2 young kids, I want to be at home, spend some time with them. He's like, no, they do local work. And I was like, I didn't understand what that meant because we didn't have any disasters here. But I soon found out what Habitat does and thought, wow, this is great. Came into their construction realm and realized that they weren't up to date on costing templates and stuff like that. So I decided to give them my knowledge and kind of get them on the right path. And then they offered me a position, and it's funny because I happened to be in a lull in our business where I was chasing a lot more receivables. Business was slow. I wasn't doing what I actually liked, which is interacting with clients. It was a tough period, and then they had offered me this position, and in a roundabout way. The amount of headaches, the driving, and all that I was doing comparable to this, it made sense. But the one overriding thing was that when I walked into the Habitat offices and stuff, everybody was friendly. It was a really good vibe, if you will, of people being genuinely happy to be helping the community, which a guy from the GTA was a non-existent myth. I worked like 18 hours a day. I was like, how do you help people happy? After that? Yeah. I was like, it doesn't make sense at all. And I remember walking out of there feeling this urge to do good. And I was like, okay, what did he put in the coffee? Like, what's happening? So went home and discussed it with my wife at the time and said, listen, let's pull up the numbers and see how viable this could be as a choice. And sure enough, it wasn't that much. And it was the first time in my life that we had a home without a mortgage. Right. So I didn't feel the same pressure as a new young family would. And I was like, okay, this might be working out. Came back, accepted the offer. And it was in the construction realm. I think the title was construction director. And within a year, they offered me the CEO position. And at the time, I was, what? I'm the construction guy. What do you mean CEO? And I actually thought about it in a term of, if the next guy comes in, how do I deal with this guy and his vision versus the vision that we already have? Right. I was making some real headway in the community. We were getting our name back out. We really we were isolated prior to me. I made sure that we weren't isolated, meaning that we were very centric to our mission. I thought the way forward was always to collaborate and get out there with other organizations. And actually, Simcoe County Home Builders was one of my first ventures. We're going back 10 years now. We did a build and burn where they built a building or a house for the fire department. And we got about, I don't know, at the time, I think it was about 150 people together to build this house in one day. Yeah. We built an actual house in one day, and it was revolving walls so that the fire department can always adjust. And it was an amazing project. And I think that's when everybody realized Habitat's back on the map here. Right. And it was really part of that. So having a new guy come in was like, oh, this is dreadful. I'm going to answer to a guy. Yeah. It's challenging for sure. And so I was like, we're heading in the right path. And Habitat at the time did have some past leadership issues with the community. Right. So And I didn't know that I was going to be their answer to correcting that, but it turned out that it
was
worked
you.
out well. Yeah.
So Rob, how long have you been involved with Habitat for Humanity now?
I think February, it was actually Valentine's Day. So I celebrated with my organization, not with my loved one. 2015. So it's, we're going on 10, 11 years
10
now.
years.
So you fell in love.
You know what, I really did. And I say this to everybody because I get passionate about Habitat and what we do. At first I struggled with concept because, you're called a charity, and then I was like, okay. And when I think of charities, you think of the most vulnerable. We're going to be helping that. And then I didn't correlate what we were doing with being a charity. I thought, okay, well, we're getting people into affordable housing. We're providing, affordable mortgages. Yeah, it makes sense, but what's the charity aspect of it? And then when you get into the housing continuum, that's where it goes, and we can get into that later because it's more boring stuff. But for me, I did fall in love with the aspect of giving back to a community. Like I said, I was a GTA guy that was so busy that to me, it was mythical that people actually volunteered. I thought, okay, that's like, upon retirement, people can do that in your busy schedule. Well, I was introduced to the opposite. I'd be on build sites, see all these young, actual business owners coming on and saying, hey, how can I help? And offering their team to help. And I was like, what's happening here? Manufacturers calling and saying, hey, I understand you're working on this project. I've got this siding for you. And I was like,
help? Yeah.
I was like, you guys are all for profit. You're making no profit. Like, I don't understand. And absorbing into that took a little while, but once I did, it made sense that I was feeling the way I did initially, which was going home happy and waking up going, I can't wait for, see so-and-so today. And again, that concept never resonated with me at any point in my career. I was always happy that I was employed. I was happy that I can make an effect to the organization on a business level, but I didn't really have joy. It was always a path to a means or whatever. Yeah. This was more intuitive with what I wanted to do, and I didn't even know I wanted to do it.
That's amazing. I mean, I think there is something special about Simcoe County as a whole.
That's the other thing,
my own opinion. I might be a little biased, born and raised here.
I can give you an outsider's perspective and say you're spot on.
Yeah.
Because it's warm and welcoming. When we moved up here 12 years ago, I felt like I didn't know anybody. And very quickly, I felt like I knew everybody.
Right.
And everybody wraps you around their arms and says, hey, this is great. And they welcome you in. And it's the opposite of what I grew up in, which is the GTA.
Right.
Where everybody's like, don't talk to your neighbor. He could be a killer.
Right. And we're not here to bash the GTA because there's several pockets.
I love it. I still go to the GTA all the time.
But I still think there is something special about Simcoe County.
It is.
And even the organization, Simcoe County Home Builders Association, I'm relatively new to that organization myself. And just to your point, everyone's a friend now. Like you go to an event and you're welcomed and you feel like you're actually part of something, which is really fantastic.
Yeah, I feel that way too. So, shameless plug.
Yeah, we could
County Home Builders Association is always looking for new members.
So, Rob, what's one thing that you wish more people knew about Habitat? Specifically here in Huronia.
What we do.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's almost as ambiguous as when I started. So we're so mission focused that we don't spend our money on advertising who we are, what we do, and why we do it. So there's this big vagueness that we are disaster relief to. The one thing that we aren't associated with is home building.
Right.
And it's weird because that's what we do. The biggest misnomer is that we give away free homes. I would quit my job right away, line up for their home if that was the case. There's no question. I would love for people to delve into what we do in terms of how it helps the community. So we are home builders. We're mortgage holders too. We hold the mortgages for our homes. We allow for people to get into home ownership, which is our niche. And this is where I go back to earlier when I said that I struggled with calling us a charity because I put my for-profit world into, well, we're a builder and we're a mortgage holder. None of that screams helping the most vulnerable.
Right.
But there's a housing continuum, and in that housing continuum, you've got from the unhoused to market home ownership.
Sure.
And in between there, you've got transitional, you've got shelters, you've got market rent, you've got social rent, and then you've got a big gap that goes to home ownership. And
Right.
we fill that void in there by having our program allow people to get into home ownership without the barriers. So
Sure.
we have zero down payment.
Okay.
Our mortgages are 0% interest, so it's all principal that you're paying off. They're also capped at 25% of your income.
Right.
We do expect 500 hours of volunteer time. And it's funny because I always thought, how are they going to do 500 hours? Families, even after they're in our homes, actually become really strong members of the community, and they volunteer at other organizations. So it becomes, I call it what we have, habititis. They get it different, yeah, they get...
So 500 comes and goes like that, and
Yeah.
they continue.
And they'll bring friends and family that can count for it, and a lot of them are like, I still want to do this. We just had an event where one of our families from 8 years ago said, can I speak? And I was like, absolutely, because you can actually talk to the evolution of our program.
Absolutely.
So what we do in our little niche is open the doors by having enough impact that we can get people into our program for ownership. And our data is that after 7 years in our program, our families move on to traditional mortgages and traditional home ownership, which allows us to get those homes back to us, refurbish them, and have another family come in and do the same thing. Allowing us the ability to move people on to traditional home ownership and opening the door for, again, whether it be market rentals or social rental, to become homeowners frees up that space. And if we make enough of an impact there, the prices come down for rentals. Because right now there is so much demand, no supply.
Yeah.
People are charging whatever they want.
Yeah.
And legitimately, in Barrie being top 3 in the country is outrageous. Like, so if we can make that impact, we get that opened up. But when that opens up, it also pulls the people from transitional housing into rentals.
Right.
And that space now opens up people from shelters to go into transitional. So that whole continuum, and our piece,
domino effect.
and our piece is definitely an important cog to move on. So that's what I want people to know, that even though once you learn about us, you're going to start questioning, well, is that really helping the most vulnerable? Yes, because if we don't keep that moving, that backlog, that wall that's created there is much more of a disaster. And we're there now. It's a crisis. And so part of what we did, we just went to Ottawa just before the budget to sit down with cabinet and federal government to include us as a provider for funding, because we've done this all without government funding. It's all been through donations and through local philanthropic ventures of manufacturers or labor or business owners. We're finally saying, hey, if you guys want impact, you guys got to put the money in there. You know, I understand everybody wants us to go into rentals. Rentals is great, but that's always going to be a rental. And those people are always going to be in the rental cycle. There's not equity building. And so the portion that we do is whatever, the North American dream. I came here as an immigrant. My parents bought a house at, I don't know, it was 22% interest. And my dad used to say it all the time. And that number was like, Dad, I don't even know what interest is, but who cares? Like, we live in a home. That's what it was.
For sure.
And so that now has become such a pipe dream for so many people. And I think that's why we are more relevant today. Where people say Habitat's becoming irrelevant because of home ownership, I think that we're becoming more relevant because we can't allow that dream to stop.
And there is that huge gap, especially in the last 10 years since you've been in your role at Habitat. The housing prices here in Simcoe, but obviously across the nation, have skyrocketed to where there is that now larger gap for people who can afford rent maybe, but they can't make that next step into home ownership.
Absolutely.
And as you say, like, it's almost the Canadian dream is how we build wealth is to own a home, right?
I'll give you a perfect example. 12 years ago when I moved to Barrie, I bought a little bungalow for $302,000.
Yeah.
That sold 5 years later. We bought another home after that, but that house sold, not by me, I wish, but $1.1 million in 5 years. That kind of growth is unsustainable for any region.
And it puts a huge roadblocks
So-
up for the next generation.
Yeah, and it was people that were moving out of the big city coming in, and it just put a big glaring light on what the problem is. And while we don't have the perfect solution, I feel like we're a huge part of the solution if people would just know that we're there for that.
Absolutely.
So we've learned that you were currently underway in another major campaign. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
There's a couple. Which one are you alluding to?
I think it's a buy a brick.
Oh, yeah, there's a buy a brick campaign. We do that every year around Christmas time. Like I said, we don't have much government funding. We have creative fundraising, and this is part of our fundraising campaign where people come into the store or online and they can buy a brick, and 100% of that proceed goes to our next build, which we'll be announcing in January. It's going to be massive. We haven't had a build of this kind of size in Simcoe County. There's some legal stuff that I can't say about it, but I'm very excited. It will be announced in the new year. It's phenomenal. It's an exact example of what can happen when two really strong organizations that are foundationally built on housing is a right come together and create this. So I'm very proud of what's coming. I know it sounds like very clandestine. It's not meant to be, but there's some laws that have to be followed in terms of it. But I'm proud of it, yeah. And so this Build a Brick will actually go into it. And one of the things that I'm proud of is that many charities have a lot of overhead. And so when you look at where your dollar goes, if they break it down, some people get upset going, well, why is 90% of mine going to overhead? Right. Well, that's what our restores are for. Our restores pay our overhead.
Right.
And so that any donations that come in are 100% to the build.
Wow.
So our restore is our social enterprise. It allows for our overhead to be covered. And then anything above that goes into that reserve fund.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So what I love about the Buy a Brick campaign, if I'm saying that correctly, is that it stays in Simcoe County, right?
Yes.
So it's you are literally helping out your future neighbors or your current neighbors.
This is why I love the way that we're a federated model. So Habitat Canada is our, I guess you would call it a governing entity, but we're all individual affiliates.
Right.
And why we always fight for that autonomy is what works in the GTA doesn't work in Simcoe, it doesn't work in Sault Ste. Marie, it certainly doesn't work maybe in Regina. It gives us the ability to know our area, know what we need, know what our community demands from us, and be able to do it. You know, in some communities, they don't build homes. They do what we call critical repairs. And I always say this is just as important as home building, because if you've been in your home for 20 years, you're struggling but you need a new roof, you're struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah.
We have a program where you come to us, and it's much like our home building program, 0% interest, whatever. We will give you the new roof. You're getting monthly payments based off of whatever, but it keeps people in their homes. And what that does is it actually creates the affordability factor, because they don't have to put it on the market, raise prices on the market, but also then there's this whole avenue of what do I do now? If you've been in your home forever and now you have to leave and you have to downsize, or there's so much emotion involved in it, or just stay in your home. So
There's additional health impacts of that too, right? When you've
Oh,
got
we have
community,
data,
you
yeah.
have that community that you've been in that house for a long time, you know your neighbors, you know the people across the street, and then to be ripped out of that can potentially be devastating, right?
And this is why I love that we do home ownership, because we have the data, and I'm not going to bore you with the numbers, but it's significant data that home ownership actually helps people generationally. And you know, when I go to a fundraising event, and you know, there's the hospital, or there's, you know, other organizations with much more pulling at the heartstrings needs, they say, well, what are you contributing? And I say, you helped me once, you've helped them forever.
Right.
In a hospital, and I understand that you have to constantly keep the money coming in because you're helping people one shot at a time, but that doesn't mean that they're not coming back for more and coming back. Whereas when you help Habitat actually helps a family generationally. And what does that mean? It means that post-secondary is not like a maybe, it's a for sure. It means that health-wise that they're able to do it. Our program allows for families to go on vacations or not worry about whether they're going to put on the heat or have food that week. Like there's so much that changes generationally with our program that I can be proud of. And I'll share a story. About 5-6 years after I had begun, I was in the grocery store and I heard my name, Rob. And I looked around, there's 6 of us that turned around and said, what? And I didn't fully recognize the woman that was calling my name. And I was like, hi, just thinking maybe she was at an event or networking. And she had this rather large man next to her. And I was like, okay, well, hi. And she said, you don't recognize me? And I was like, no. And she said, I'm so-and-so from this address. And I was like, oh my God, it's been so forever, but you look different. And she's like, yeah, and this is Doug. And I was like, little Dougie? Well, he said, put out his hand and he said, you know what, thank you. I just graduated from dental school. Wow. He goes, never chance I would have that if it wasn't for what the program allowed. And I was like blown away because so when we go to our events and we have a key ceremony and everybody hands the key to the family for the first time, everybody gets teary-eyed.
Yeah.
I don't. I was just like, okay, that's a great move. I get teary-eyed from what's going to happen. Yeah. They don't see the journey that they're about to go on. I know the end result of that journey, and that's what I'm most proud of being here.
What an incredible story, because it's not just that immediate impact. It's a long-standing, as you said, it's the generational impact that you're having for someone to be potentially in an unstable home, to then have that stability that allows them to potentially meet their potential, right?
89%. And I'm going to bore you with a number. 89% of our homeownership program participants stay in home ownership. They don't go back to rentals.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And the effects of that is adding to the economy. You're buying homes, you're paying taxes, like all of it comes into play. So that's what I can be proud of. That's when I said, okay, we are a charity.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're not going back to for-profit.
No, not anytime soon. Like that world is so weird to me. And I do a lot of collaborations with local partners and I see their stresses and especially in this time. I mean, post-COVID has been a terrible time for anybody in the industry of building. We went through COVID and we put our heads down and we built a 5-unit townhouse build that ended up being 60% over budget. It taught me a lesson because it was really foolish for us. I should have followed the lead of industry. Industry said, we're not going to build. Right. Labor costs are up, material costs are up. They're thinking profit. I was always like, nah, this is our goal. We've got to get these families in. In the end of it, we could have really harmed our own affiliate because of the expenses of it. Right. So now I realize like that was feel good. When I drive by, I'm happy they're in their homes. I see the price tag and that should never happen in our world. We can't sustain that kind of a hit.
Right. But now obviously the industry's changed from COVID times. So
yes.
Obviously you're announcing soon a new build in Simcoe County that I'm sure you're very excited about. And it's a need. It's such a need, especially in Simcoe County. Like I said, once that boom came where people came up from the city, they rose all of the property values to an unsustainable level. We really do need housing here. And again, the story can probably be the same across Canada, but in Simcoe County, it's glaring. Absolutely.
So just out of curiosity, do you have a figure on the top of your head of approximately how many families during your career that you've assisted in this way?
If I do quick math, somewhere in 22.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it sounds like a small number. And then this is why I've been pushing for these collaborations, is because I want to make more of an impact. But to understand how we did it, we have to fundraise to get the money to build. Yeah. So we have to have the money completed before we start a build, because we never want to get a family in process, stop the build because we run out of money.
Absolutely.
So you can sustain that for a year or two, a house or two. Mm-hmm. We've partnered with a lending institute that now gives us that money up front.
Oh, wow.
And we can get it through our mortgages. Those receivables allow for that capital up front, which is, again, why we can do what we do now. We had to make a complete change in our model. We had to make changes in our mortgage model. Our old classic was once the families got in, it was theirs, Bob's your uncle, you can live off your equity. Well, what happened in that boom part that we were alluding to earlier, where the prices were skyrocketing, I had a lot of our donors come and say, Rob, I really love your organization, I love this, but we're not a 649 ticket, because our organization takes a hit by helping you.
Yeah.
And your families are turning in homes and they're getting, 649s all the time. And I said, begrudgingly, I was like, well, you should never look at somebody's success, whatever, but they're right. They're investing in us, and it almost seems like it's a one-off, and these guys are off. And that home is no longer affordable housing.
Right.
And so we changed our mortgage model, where our mortgage now, whatever the price was that you were mortgaged at, they have to sell it back to us. We have right of first refusal for them to come to us, and we can buy it at the price that their mortgage is at.
Right.
So they get a lump sum payment of whatever they put in, and that gives us the ability to buy back a home very inexpensively, refurbish it, put another family in. But it also gives us the ability to have affordable housing in perpetuity.
Right.
It's not a one-off anymore.
Fantastic.
So
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time.
Okay.
So where can people reach you or Habitat Huronia if they're interested in taking part, volunteering or donating money?
www.habitathuronia.com.
Fantastic. And if I may, Rob, one question I want to ask, is there any books or movies that you've seen recently that you think people should check out?
Books, Goldfinch I just read, was genius.
Okay.
Movies, I have this real yearning to go see this Coco movie that I've been hearing about.
You're a little late to the game on that one, I think, Rob. But
that tells you where I'm in the movie realm.
I would highly recommend it. I love that movie, and it might even bring a tear to your eyes. Thank you so much for listening. And if you'd like to sponsor or join the podcast as a guest, please reach out to us at podcast@schba.ca. Rob, thanks again for all your time. It's incredible to have people like you in our community and working with us to help people get into homes.
The honor is mine, guys. Day to day.